That's not working. All right, my name is Jasper Williams Ward. I'm a reporter at the Nassau Guardian newspaper in the Bahamas. I am a freelance reporter with the Washington Post and Reuters as well, and I do field reporting for ABC News. And for some reason, the University of the Bahamas thought that that made me qualified to talk to everyone here today about fake news. So that's what we are going to do. So we will start with the definition of fake news, and that is inaccurate news stories that are intentionally designed to deceive and be spread online, specifically on social media. This differs from misinformation, which is just merely falsehoods, because its real aim and purpose is to achieve a political goal. Exposure to fake news, it lowers the public's trust in all media, but it may become even worse because of the development and diffusion of deep fakes, which are artificial intelligence enhanced video and audio designed to present people saying or doing things that they never actually said or did. For example, if someone did a deep fake of former Prime Minister Hubert Minnis cussing out current Prime Minister Philip Brave Davis just to, I don't know, cause some kind of mischief, then that would be a deep fake. So I have to bring up this one. I found this poll or this chart here, which showed the perceived frequency of online news websites reporting fake news stories in the United States. This was taken in, I think, March 2018 and published the following month. And it had 803 adults who were surveyed over the telephone. And as you can see, more than 50% of them said that they actually believe that, you know, some of these online news websites, they report fake news. I tried the poll earlier today on my Twitter page. I don't think it got 800 respondents, but I will see. It got 126 respondents. And I asked the same question, which was, do you think some online news websites ever report fake news stories? And of the 126 votes, 44% of them said yes, regularly, and 52% said yes, occasionally. So it's not the same as what we see here on the screen, but I mean, it's not that far off. So do we have fake news in the Bahamas? Anyone wants to answer that one?
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I think we really started to see that during the COVID-19 pandemic. I think we all got a voice note or a forwarded chain message or saw something on social media that was either like old information being shared as new information or just like totally wrong. So at the start of the pandemic, what we started to see was like, I think the pandemic started to gain a bit of traction before it was actually declared a pandemic that March. The COVID-19 started to get a bit of traction, I think January, February in the United States and Europe. And as a journalist, I could tell you, we started calling people who were Bahamians in China and Italy, some of whom came back to the Bahamas. We do these stories, and all of a sudden we're seeing the photos of these individuals we've interviewed and people sharing online saying that this person has COVID and they're back roaming the streets. Not true. The story just says that they came back home because of what was happening in that country they're in, and now they're just trying to, you know, quarantine to make sure everything's good with them. You know, after we got our first case, we started to see reports of people dying, apparently. At this point, no confirmed deaths had been reported by the Ministry of Health, but our Facebook doctors were saying that they knew for sure that this person who died next door died from COVID-19 and the government was lying to us. I think the Prime Minister also got caught in a couple of those fake news stories where they were saying that he had tested positive for COVID and the government just for some reason did not want us to know. So if you look even aside of the COVID-19 reporting and death, we then started to see like these chain messages of, I heard this first from my source in the office of the Prime Minister or the Ministry of Health saying there's a lockdown coming, you know, or there's a weekend lockdown, or they're about to change the curfew. We would then call, you know, the Director of Communications of the Prime Minister. Is there a lockdown coming? No. Ministry of Health, is this happening? No. You tell these fake news operatives, okay, well, we spoke to the people who would know this in government, and they're saying, no, well, you don't know what you are talking about because my cousin said that he was in the room, but this was said, and you just don't know, or you're lying to us. And so these are some of the things we started to, you know, experience as news people during the COVID-19 pandemic, in particular, that first couple of months in 2020. Now, there was a point where people weren't just making up news, they would, screenshot old news. Like I had a couple of my tweets, Eyewitness had some of their old posts, Our News, The Guardian, where,
US Embassy.
the US Embassy, where there was like, for one case, you had a lockdown was announced, let's say in March or May. There's no lockdown coming this weekend, but someone's going to take a very old news post that they had a few months old, and they're going to crop the time date out of it, and they're going to put that on WhatsApp, and they're going to share it. Oh man, look what Eyewitness just say. Minutes about to lock us back down. And I mean, the real true aim of this can only be to cause mischief, because like these things aren't true. So that was some of what we saw then, obviously last year with the rollout of the vaccine. We all heard the voice notes of the this vaccine's killing people. I know someone who just died moments after getting the vaccine. We talked to the Minister of Health, the CMO, the beloved Dr. Dal Regis. They say this is not true. We have no reported, deaths related to the vaccine. My favorite one was someone sent a voice note out, and they said that you're being tracked, as we all know. If you're vaccinated, you're being tracked by Bill Gates. And if you want to confirm this, just get a magnet and put it to your arm where you was jabbed. I had many people who knew I was vaccinated come and put magnets to my arms just to test this out. And the goal of this was really to make people not want to take the vaccine, because this person did not want to take the vaccine, so they didn't want anyone else to take it. So these are some of the examples of fake news that we saw during the COVID-19 pandemic in particular. So we're going to look at some ways to actually spot fake news. And one of those ways is to consider or check the sources. You can do that by, clicking away at the story to investigate the site, its mission, and its contact information. So if someone sent you a link to show you that 65 million people have died from the COVID-19 vaccine, and that website is breakingcnnnews.xyz, are you going to trust that? So, I mean, firstly, look at the source. It's not CNN.com. So, I mean, can you really, say that this is the actual news website? .xyz. I mean, people use it, as a domain name, but can you really say that this is a reputable news organization? So that right there shows you that although there may be 65 million people who died from the COVID-19 vaccine, the source that's providing this information to you isn't like the source to trust for that information. So it's always best to go out and look for another source, or if you see some information, and this is something I deal with all the time. As a journalist, we're always looking for not for the most scandalous news, but breaking news. If we see something here, like if I see something on Facebook or I'm forwarded it on WhatsApp, and I can't find it anywhere else on the internet, I'm going to automatically start questioning the source that originally sent it to me. Because if there's only one entity saying this, unless it's a major exclusive, and no one else has reported it yet, then automatically it may not necessarily be, accurate information. Another way to spot fake news is to, something behemoths don't like to do. I can tell you that as a journalist, is read beyond the headlines. We'll post a story online, and I swear to you, behemoths will only read the headline for that story, and they will think they know. That's it, and they'll think they know the entire story, and they will argue with the people who either quoted in the story or wrote the story and say that you don't actually know what you're talking about because the story says this. You got to explain to them, no, the headline says this, and in some cases, headlines can be misleading. So it's always very important to read beyond the headline, because I mean, you'd be surprised what kind of information you'll get once you actually get deeper into a story. So check the source. Don't just read the headline, read the actual story through and through, because you'll think the first 3 paragraphs helps you. Paragraphs 5 and 6 may provide some context that you didn't even know with the news that's being delivered, and it could help you to understand the topic more. Check the author. If you're a newbie, I mean, this should come second nature to you, because the author who may be giving you that information could be a political operative. They can have a bias, and there may be a lot of reasons why they may put a slight on the story that cannot make it the most accurate information, that can make it a falsehood and just automatic fake news. So that's a major thing. You'll read op-eds sometimes, and you'll be like, oh wow, this is very interesting information. And then you'll go, for me, I'd go and I'll Google a bit more to see on this topic, and I'll realize that the person who wrote that op-ed was missing out some key information about it. When you Google that person, you'll see, oh, okay, well, they have ties to someone or an entity that's critical to this story. And so that's why they're framing it this way, to kind of, make people agree with what their narrative is. So it's very important to always check the author. And finally, you see a story, check the date, because if it was reported, 15 years ago, it may not necessarily be relative to today's context. I know at the start of the Ukraine war, there were like these videos that were going around with American troops, maybe in Afghanistan or Iraq. And I mean, Ukraine in February, it's likely snowing, but it's the desert. So for some reason, people are like, no, this is Ukraine. So, they're showing these folks, these troops, American troops on the ground in Afghanistan, and they're sharing it to say, no, America has sent troops to Ukraine, and this is about to blow up. And I'm like, okay, first things first. Let's do a screen grab. Let's see if we can do a reverse Google search. If that doesn't help you, then let's just see if we can find any kind of date to provide some kind of context as to what's happening when this actual news story was released. I'm hoping that those little steps will help you to better understand how to check fake news. But we're going to try it out to see how good you guys are. So is this a fake news story or is it a real news story?
That looks fake.
How many folks say fake? 2 fakes? 3 fakes? Good. 4 fakes? 5 fakes. It is fake. While this is, it can be very good. Right? So, I mean, this. While this is actually the New York Times' video page, if there was like a breaking story to say that, Vladimir Putin was about to attack America with missiles, New York Times can tell you 100%, would not break that on the video. They break that on the actual @NYT on Twitter. Also, when you see news organizations start a sentence with like a lowercase one, and these hashtags just seem, they're not, So, good job. First round. First round. All right. Real or fake?
Well, who is ETF News?
Yes, that's what would be State's Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. And then they start the sentence with a web page. Yeah, no, this is fake.
Yeah, so we're all saying it's fake. So ETF News, or endingthefed.com, emerged as one of the more notorious fake news sites during the election that saw Donald Trump become US president in 2016, I think it was. It often republished content word for word from other very conservative right-wing websites. You can tell it's literally attributing another right-wing website. It doesn't have any authoritative sources in this. So it's obviously fake. And you guys are able to automatically register that this source, this website, is nothing you've ever heard of. And if they have something like WikiLeaks confirming that Hillary Clinton sold weapons to ISIS, then I'm sure that this nobody website wouldn't be the one reporting that major news. That's right. This should be an easy one. Real or fake, and why?
Oh my God. She's still alive.
Most important factor.
Yes, that's right.
But if you saw this and you didn't know she was still alive and didn't know she was 95, would you think?
And then not just that, 2016. Yeah. Even just looking at the year.
But one of the more interesting things you should see here is this up here is at BBC News on UK. Yeah. The I throws it off, I think they actually have an at BBC News UK, but that I shows automatically that's not the actual BBC you're thinking of. So it always shows you need to go with the source.
And then we would have known too that she would have died before her husband, who just recently died, a year or two ago.
And I think when it breaks, I don't think they're gonna do a Twitter. It has to go, I think, on the actual BBC first. And then, you guys are really good at spotting the fake news so far. And this final one, it's one of the Bahamian ones that came about. Real or fake?
I think this one is fake. I don't,
I
did
think
she?
it's real, it's just grammatical,
They got one real, one fake.
and then it's not at all real, and then you can go to the
COVID in lungs, COVID in throat.
Two fakes?
I think real.
4 to 5 days.
Two reals, two fakes?
I think it's real.
I'm gonna go with real.
Three reals, four reals, two fakes?
I think it's terrible. It might be.
She, I think some parts of it may have been things that she said,
Yeah.
but I think
I
some
think
other
it's
things are
fake.
added. So if,
And this is the
yeah,
part
if,
that's dangerous, because there's like a little bit of it that's
True,
kind of
but-
true, and then the other parts of it that.
So this is fake, right?
yeah,
And this was forwarded so much, I think last year, even before then, like I had to personally say, go up to Dr. Delaritas, look at this that's being sent. Did you actually advise this? And she was just like, no. So, you know, and I mean, never mind that the advice in it could be like, you know, helpful or true, but like, she didn't actually advise this, and a lot of folks followed the steps in this because they saw somebody that they trusted. And so this was forwarded. I mean, I literally went back in my chat history because this was sent to me so many
Many
times.
times.
That's kind of like, if it goes near, like, how would you?
And so much of the information is correct.
Exactly. So
What you
it's,
said?
she said so much of
So
it
the
is correct.
information is correct.
That's what I
Yeah.
said, the bits of it that are
Yeah.
accurate.
But it's attributing it to someone who didn't actually say, which makes it
Right.
fake
Mhm.
news. You know, and so while the advice in it could be helpful or, you know, be true, you say that this person advised this, then automatically.
Yeah, they're misrepresented.
And I always look too for spelling errors, that's like, those are the
That's
first
really-
things that give me a hint. Because, you know, someone like that would make sure that those sorts of things are paid attention to.
And they'd likely send it out in like an official government
Yeah,
statement or
report,
something with
right.
letterhead,
Yes.
you know, so, I'm sorry if this
You
wasn't
got me on that
longer,
one.
but, anybody has any questions?
There's some stuff in the chat.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
there's some
I don't know how,
responses. I'll
Thank you.
look at
Not
that.
any questions, yeah,
Oh,
though, just
okay.
comments.
Oh, well, I think going back to the Queen, they said she's 96. There was a spelling error, so they said that one was fake. Claire Bowen, I think she's one of the science faculty, she said, cannot verify that information, no date or links to site. Forwarded too many times, I guess that was the, yeah, that was the other one. And Ismay Cox from the Ministry of Education says fake until proven by the doctor.
boom.
Well, people just trying to kill off before 11 January.
Oh, yeah, yesterday, like he had heat exhaustion while at the function at Luther. And the amount of like, within like 15 minutes of Clint Watson saying like he had heat exhaustion, had to be elected to New Providence, folks are saying, breaking news,
Dead.
Governor General dead. It's like, that's not, that's not at all what happened. But, and it makes it worse when, I hope I don't get any enemies, people start attacking me for this, when you have like, some of these politically operated websites like Bahamas Press that literally will take anything. And they'll just, I mean, they'll just sit there and write just out of their head, just for writing's sake. And there's so many folks who believe them, like during Hurricane Dorian, I was working for the Washington Post, and I literally had like these Pulitzer Prize winner editors calling me and saying, well, why am I not reporting this? Bahamas Press is reported, and I'm like, dude. Dude, that's not a news organized. Well, they said 300 people are dead in Abaco. Has the prime minister said 300 people are dead in Abaco? No, so let's wait for the actual facts. And so a lot of the times we are usually very fast to just believe things because it aligns with our own biases. That we'll just literally see something online and just run with it and forward it. Google is our friends.
There's a hand raised. Do you want to ask your question, Eddie?
Yes, my question is to Mr. Will, I'm sorry, Ms. Williams Ward.
Hello.
Oh, Yes, as it relates to fake news, I know with the everybody's familiar with the particular tabloid type political organization that posts a lot of misinformation on Facebook. But what I've seen is many times they would have a story that sometimes there is maybe some for whatever reason a media blackout on certain topics, and so I think Bahamians are more they tend to gravitate towards that because of because sometimes I don't know for whatever reason certain news organizations will not report on certain things, and in most instances they I don't know for whatever reason, but you'll tend to find stories posted on there, and I guess that's probably why persons tend to gravitate towards that. How do you feel about that? That particular um, being the instance here in the Bahamas, as
Well,
persons are willing to, even like you said with your editors, with the Washington Post, they tend to gravitate more and believe that that source is more credible than the regular than the more uncredible sources.
it's frustrating, mainly because a lot of the times, like we as journalists, we get blasted for not covering certain topics, but at the end of the day, access is often an issue. We can't necessarily get information. We can't verify information sometimes if we get it. And we like to always ensure that we have balance with our story. So if we get something and we can't get the other side to respond, and a lot of the times, we can't do that. That's irresponsible journalism. So it's a bit, why am I looking at the speaker? It's really frustrating because we try our best to provide accurate and important information to the public, and they get frustrated. They'd rather believe some of the tabloid posting online because it's more salacious, or it gives them the kind of information that they want that we may not necessarily have access to get or verify. I hope that answers the question.
Okay, there is a question in the chat. Is there a site to paste news articles that are proven to be fake? To prove if it's fake or real, and sometimes fake news can be on Google.
I think it's like Scopes, Snopes.
Yes.
Yeah, Snopes, yeah,
Okay.
like they're excellent. I don't know how they keep up with it, but like if you can type in, I think, a headline or even copy and paste a link, and they'll tell you it's fake, and they'll like give or true, and they'll show you why. So like, and yes, Google does have fake news, but they're more capitalist and funded by people who could pay to get their things to the top.
Yeah.
Right.
Information.
Reverse image searching on Google can be helpful if you're trying to timeline, see if something was from a different news source.
And even sometimes you can use like Google Earth. So you can like if someone says that something happened at a specific location, what you could do is go on Google Earth and actually look at the area to see if what you're seeing matches like the terrain of the area. So that's like a brilliant tool. And a lot of the time someone sends like a video, and for me, like if I get it on like my email or something and I want to confirm like it's when they said it was recorded, you can actually go, I think, into like the details part of it and look at like when it was actually, the file was created, and give like sometimes even location as to where it was recorded or taken. So I don't know if that helps as well. Oh, that's what it's called, metadata. I love it.
Yeah.
It saves me so much when I get like community.
It's the
Metadata.
technical metadata.
Metadata.
Yeah.
Yes, no, someone else was answering in the chat that Snopes are called to check to see if news is fake.
It's brilliant.
I have a question. I know most of us know fake news to be what it is today. In the past, was it referred to as yellow journalism or yellow news? What's the difference between yellow news and fake news?
Well, I mean, fake. So, oh God, you're putting me on the spot with this one. So yellow journalism, if I'm not mistaken, is more like, I forgot the dude who came up with it. They would literally just make up stories to sell papers. I think it's different from fake news because a lot of the times fake news, it has an actual mission in mind versus just making a profit. Like they want you to do something or not do something. They want you to not vote for this candidate. They want you to take the vaccine or not take the vaccine. yellow journalism was really like, we're gonna put this big sensational headline and say like the Spanish attacked the Americans in the Atlantic Ocean, and we're gonna put this big photo here, and that's what happened. We're just gonna have a lot of people read it and believe it. We're not gonna say, use this to say we need to go and boycott the Spaniards necessarily. So you can tell me if my assessment, my
Yes, I
comparison is
think,
different, but
I
that's
think
kind of
that
the
you're
difference,
correct.
yeah.
I think that you're correct. Okay, I think that there's some more questions in the chat.
Oh.
Oh, okay, yes. So somebody was backing up your statement that yellow journalism was a style of newspaper reporting that emphasized sensationalism over facts. During its heyday in the 19th century, it was one of many factors that helped push the United States and Spain into war in Cuba and the Philippines, leading to the acquisition of overseas territory by the United States. So she's saying that you are correct.
Boom. Wish my students were here to see that.
Any other questions from the audience?
I have a question. Since like Twitter has really taken over how we get our news now, and there are some instances where we've seen positive impact by that, because as citizens we can be informed like of things in very real time, and obviously there's like negative drawbacks to that too. I was just wondering, like, if you had any thoughts on Twitter, like, do you have a love-hate relationship with it being a journalist, or do you think that there are some social media platforms that contribute more negatively to the spread of fake news?
Well, I don't really use Facebook, so I can't really compare it to Facebook. And I should say that I love Twitter, but I really hate Twitter because a lot of the times, like, I mean, as you said, I feel like more fake news is shared there than anywhere else like I've ever encountered. Like, I spent a lot of my time, especially in 2020, when I first got on Twitter, just responding to individual tweets, telling people like that's wrong. Like, people would go on and just do breaking news, like with no information. There's gonna break some news that they're not even sure of. And I feel, yeah, so Twitter contributes to a lot of fake news. And I wish they had like more in place to kind of guard against that. I see like now if you share a tweet, you have to have read it. If not, they're going to let you know that you should probably read it first before commenting and sharing it. But like, I don't think that's enough when you still have so much like incorrect information on there, or like even like hate speech. And they kind of encourage it, I feel. So I hate Twitter. Everyone who knows me knows I hate Twitter. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. I don't like it at all.
It's your perspective.
I'm trying my best to combat that. And I love so much, like in the last 2 years, so many more news organizations in the Bahamas in particular are on Twitter. So we have more Bahamians combating fake news. Like, so many of my colleagues are like constantly there. Like, I'm on Twitter, my colleagues like Jared Higgs, well, Kyle Joaquin, when he was in news, you have like David Turnquest, Sloan Smith, like just journalists every day on Twitter, just posting as much Bahamian news as possible, to kind of get that information out there. And it's kind of like, it warms my heart because now we see like those tweets from even Eyewitness, and the Guardian and the Tribune, like they get screen grabbed and like posted or going on IG, and they're going on WhatsApp, and they're going on Facebook. And so it's just like, okay, there's a little bit more hope that, Bahamians are getting accurate information. Because like a lot of folks, they don't actually know what a credible source is. Like my mom, she would get her news, and I hate that I'm putting her on blast like this, but she would get her news from like this Jesus Daily News on like Facebook, and they post news, right? And I'm like, okay, it's not forget like your biblical news from that. It's awesome, right? But like they would post news about like current events, and it just wouldn't be right. So one night I had to sneak onto her phone and like unfollow some of these fake news pages, and like make her follow CNN and the Washington Post, and like a combination of right and left wing news. So she got like a good balance, because like she was seeing these fake news posts and like wholeheartedly believing it, and we'd get into arguments of like, Mom, that's not what's happening. You think you know everything. And I'm like, okay, but I do know like this is my job, But now, like, she follows like CNN, the Washington Post, and she watches the news every morning. Like, she's become so media literate in the last few years. Like, sometimes she teaches me stuff. Like, she'll come in the room, yeah, those Russians just attacked this train station, and on the missile it had for the children. And I'm like, this can't be, oh, it's right. And so, but I have hope like Bahamians are gonna get there. We're not gonna believe as much fake news. And I mean, really, you gotta blame like, I'm not gonna get into that, never mind.
Maybe this might be putting you on the spot, but do you feel like now Cable Bahamas is trying to control a lot of the stations that push out news stories?
Can you elaborate a bit on that?
I know that if you're watching cable or what's the new Flow TV, Cable Bahamas Flow TV, you'll find that you can now catch stations like Fox, OAN. I'm wondering, do you think that the media
I don't have
organizations
cable.
are now trying
So-
to? Oh, you don't, so they're not aware.
We have cable in the house. I don't watch it. I'm a millennial, so I have HBO Max, like Hulu and all that stuff.
Okay.
But I don't actually know the situation there, but I would think more so it has something maybe to do with costs rather than
Okay.
censorship, because I mean, it must be really expensive to.
But I'm starting to really notice that like they were cut from
No.
the lineup after COVID.
Really?
Yeah, because I think they were pushing the other side, like don't take the vaccine. And yeah, they were
Because I
pushing-
feel like I've seen for sure OAN on our work TV.
Yeah, OAN, I think they were encouraging not wearing masks.
Well, I mean,
And
if
other
you really
things.
want that kind of information going, yeah. I don't, I could always find out. I could call the CEO and get back to you.
Okay, no
Okay.
problem. But I just wondered about
Oh, yeah.
it because before they, there was more choices, and I just noticed like during the time of COVID. that
No
they just-
idea. It's a
just
bad
cut
thing.
it
I have no
out.
idea what's on being television. I like streaming is like so much easier. I get like, what's it called? I have this thing called Fubu. And so I pay like $50 a month and I just get all of like, it's like TV, right? So I have all the news
Oh,
and
so you do a
everything.
lot of
that's-
streaming, so you
Yeah.
don't watch.
I don't,
Okay,
I
so
only
it
use the
wasn't-
television for Parliament.
Okay.
I'm
So it
sorry.
really wasn't a trick question. Actually. Okay. I just wanted to know your thoughts
No
on it.
problem. But I will get back to you because
No
that is
problem.
interesting.
Mhm. Any other questions?
Now they're easy.
I think it's near the end of the day, so.
You don't have to go down.
But do you think that now social media is going to become more widespread versus print? I know back in the day,
It already is, I
there were
feel.
so many papers that you can get in print that you don't. You can't.
I
find
mean,
them.
yeah, because I mean, while we do have some folks, may not have cell phones or like laptops to access online news, the average person is like not gonna say, "Why I'm gonna pick up a newspaper and I can just go on Tribune 242 or Nassau Guardian and just see that news. Why am I gonna spend $1 if I can get this for free online and I can, share it faster? Like if I want to share, and I hate this because I work for a traditional newspaper. Why am I going to get this if I want to share this, or I have to take a photo and send it to someone? So I do think the Bahamas is going to have to find be a way to monetize like that online news presence, which I think may be difficult to do because the average person doesn't even want to pay for like the Wall Street Journal or the Washington Post, and that's like $10 a month. So imagine them saying they have to pay for Bahamian news.
Yeah.
I don't see a lot of Bahamians wanting to do that, unfortunately. So I think that social media does cause a lot of challenges as it relates to traditional news.
There's a hand, Eddie, in the chat.
Yes, also the other question what I had as it relates to fake news, I know during the pandemic, the previous government had, through their emergency orders, attach a fine, I think, for spreading fake news or malicious information. I just want to know as it relates right now, currently, is that enforced? I don't know whether this government has eliminated that particular emergency orders. But I want to know from Ms. Williams Ward, do we feel that it is time for the government to put forth permanent legislation to address or to combat fake news? Do you think that there is a need? I understand during the pandemic, one of the reasons why that was put forward was just to combat just to mitigate against causing panic and hysteria and all that among the population. But do you feel that it is time for the government to put forth legislation making it a criminal offense to spread fake news, or do you think that's an overreach?
I hate political questions as a journalist. I think if the fake news poses a threat to people or like causes harm, I think safeguards should be put in place. Yes. I keep looking down there.
Okay, that's a very short political answer, but okay, thank you.
I am a journalist after all.
Yeah, that's a minute's response.
She's hyped on that.
Reliable.
That's like if you were like doing against a person.
Yeah.
And so that already exists. I'm not sure if they have.
Because I think that's why they had the fake news thing like during the pandemic. It's like spread information that can cause harm as related to
The society.
Yeah. So like I think, you know, if you spread some news and you lie about something happening, right? And a bunch of people show up and all of those people die as a result of what you told, like I don't think you should be able to just walk away and like continue with your life. So I think it depends on the situation. I don't think you should just like censor free speech, but like depending on the case, there should be safeguards.
Well, I know at the library, we always have to put, emphasize and put a strong push for information literacy. Would you suggest that a similar approach needs to be taken in high school, maybe even colleges, to encourage media literacy? Actually, to be more.
Before high school,
Society.
you know,
Okay.
because like we live in an age where toddlers literally are using phones, like they're watching Coco Melon or something like that on iPhones and iPads, and they know how to use like these things better than they know how to open a book, you know. So I think from you like in primary school there should be some kind of media literacy, like I don't know what the courses are that deal with like general societal things with civics, right? So in those civics class they should have like a week or two dedicated to just media literacy, because like as a society and as a world we're becoming more and more dependent on media, and media really determines so much of what happens in the world. So you need to know how to properly use it and decipher information that you encounter on the media. And don't get me started with the internet, my lord.
Okay, Camille Smith.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the talk. I just wanted to say that one of the things that concerns me so much about fake news is how impactful it can be, how many people can believe what is being said, how incorrect the information is, how far and wide the impact can be. And I think that was maybe Eddie. I think that's the only male. Let me see if any other male. I don't know him, but I think that might have been Eddie. I heard the male voice. And I have the same kind of query, like, you know, and I know can't answer it right now. I'm just expressing that it can have such significant impact that there has to be, if not consequences for spreading it, then maybe there has to be some kind of legislation, perhaps, if it goes that far, put in place so that it can be easily identifiable, you know, like a site that has stupid if you believe it or something like that, you know, because it's so dangerous, you know, it's so dangerous that it can have such a difficult impact. So that's my thought on that. I wish there was a much easier way even, because a lot of times people are not going to take the time to look at the email address, and not the website address, the email address, to look at whether, oh, which year is that they're referring to. They're not looking at all of that. They may just see it, get alarmed, get anxious, run with it. Yeah. So I wish there was something that could be done to either legislate that it must be identified easier, or create legislation to say if you spread something of particular public impact that you face consequences. I was just adding that view. Thank you.
And I absolutely agree with you. Like, a little hint to our wonderful UV people in here. If you guys decided to do something like that, I'd definitely be on board, because we need to do a bit more about addressing it. And I'm pretty sure there are a lot of other journalists who would like to, come together with some kind of institution, just focus solely on pointing out fake news in a Bahamian context and bringing that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, like, or even like just a website where, as we see fake news come up, we could have some kind of database where, every day we'll have a different journalist monitor it and just, explain why it's fake news or something like that. Because a lot of the times, like, folks would see this fake news and it's so much harder to convince them that it's fake than it is to just, like, from the get-go, inform of the correct information. So.
Yeah, and the impact really is very significant. I mean, we saw a lot of that with COVID, how much of it went flying around, and it's so difficult to correct after it's already been accepted and forwarded so many times.
There's another question. Eddie?
Yes, I agree with Ms. Smith is saying. There should be some type of legislative response for spreading malicious information, especially if it leads to injury or causes panic or hysteria. Now, the funny thing about it is, on our books as it stands now, I understand the argument when it talks about freedom of speech and restricting persons' liberties to speak out or to spread information that they feel that the public should know. And I know journalists have a constitutional duty and an ethical duty to to report the story as the 4th estate. But also currently, as it stands on the book now, we have an offense which is called criminal libel, where you can be held criminally liable for disparaging someone's character. I know Omar Archer, has been charged previously in the past for criminal libel. I understand that there's a warrant out for his arrest as it stands now for spreading information about someone's character or disparaging someone's character, which in law shouldn't stand, because that right there, that's why every time it went to court, they always negotiate, or if you notice, they always drop the charges, because if it goes to the courts, they will rule that he has a constitutional right. That will be infringement of his freedom of speech. Now, in law, the only recourse or remedy federal would to bring a civil action against someone, to sue them personally for defaming your character, and so that is a mechanism currently that everyone has. If you feel someone has spread something in the media that has hurt your reputation, that is false, and it injures your reputation, you have the legal remedy to sue that person, and and once you're successful in court, then damages will be awarded. But that's just the disparity as it stands, that on one end, the government, or they don't feel like they shouldn't bring forward legislation to stop persons from spreading fake news, but at the same time too, if you spread, because essentially if you criminal libel is almost like fake news, because most of the time if they come out in the public and say, oh, this politician's sweethearting on his wife, or this one is doing drugs, or so anything like that. But on that medium, and that law right there, they with the criminal libel, that is considered a colonial type of law, because essentially all that was done to pretty much suppress person's constitutional right to speak out. And so that is just my my observation of that, and the disparity between the two arguments.
Camille, you have a question?
Yeah, I just had a little point. Thank you, Mr. Wait, my internet says it's unstable. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Noelis. I hope I correctly pronounced that. Yeah, I worked as a court social worker for a number of years, and I would ask the magistrate or the justice, can we not do something to stop people from coming into court with these fake charges. I thought of it as Mr. Noellis was speaking. And they're like, yeah, anybody could bring a case to court and say anything. And by the time you prove it to be incorrect, that has already gone out. That is definitely a type of fake news, you know, so it is a real concern. And I thank you for that additional information. I like this whole workshop. I think it's very interesting. Thank you to the library for bringing it.
Very rocks. But as it relates to the legislation question, if this helps, the next time we have an OPM press briefing, I can always ask if the government intends to have any kind of legislation on fake news. I don't know if that's helpful in any way.
Yeah, I think that'd be very helpful, very helpful. I'd be very interested to hear their view on it.
2 weeks after the holidays.
Yeah.
And we better be willing to go to campaign with her. That's no ticket. She has to.
My concern with the legislation is that if it's there, nobody's enforcing it. You know, like seat belts and, you know.
Or the cell phone driving, I think.
Exactly. So the legislation is good, but it's the follow-up.
That could literally be all day, all night, because there's so much nonsense out there.
But when we already need so many people enforcing, you know, for like sexual crimes and stuff,
Yeah.
it becomes hard to allocate resources, I imagine. Any other questions?
Any other questions, comments? Well, let's find in the reactions, the hand clap or some emoji to thank Jasper Ward, and then we're going to clap our hands.
Well, thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to come back to UV. I will hand it over to the wonderful library.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. And for those of you who joined us for multiple sessions for Library Week, it's been a wonderful week and we've had fun having these sessions with you. So keep an eye out for future events that the library is putting on, and we hope to see you all soon.
And it's our anniversary. Today, the library is technically 11 years old.
Yeah.
We opened or entered this building April 8, 2011. Yeah.
I would like to add my thanks to all those who participated and to this committee. They did a fantastic job. We never knew what to expect. And I always believe that when we look at COVID, we must look at the positive. COVID has given us a lot of ideas to be innovative and to reach our audience. And a special thanks to all those who supported us. Yeah. Good job, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Walker.